Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me back. Really excited to be here on the topic of ASO is dead. So ASO is dead. I'm going to tell you a little story too. Not as great as that one, by the way. I really like that. But why I'm saying ASO is dead? So a few months back, we're really active on LinkedIn. There happens to be a really active ASO community. So by the way, if you do ASO and you're not active on the community, join LinkedIn. You'll find people, great conversations. This woman, Marina, posted, I hadn't connected with her yet. She posted on someone else. She's like, I heard ASO is dead. I saw this and I immediately jumped in. I was like, what? No, it's not. I was like, ASO is very alive and well. Why did I think this? Well, a few months prior, Audible did a really big reorg, and I was actually tasked to lead our global ASO team. So here, ASO is dead. I am going to be out of a job. ASO cannot be dead. It has to be alive and well. Not only would I be out of a job, my whole team would be out of a job. So I was like, so I sat, I thought about it for a little bit. Then I responded back and I said, you know what? ASO is dead. I do agree with that statement. We've had a lot of conversations with that since. And for anyone here who does follow me on LinkedIn, you already know where this is going. So let's just start quickly with what is ASO. I think it's always a great starting point because I actually do get asked this a lot. Brief history lesson. July 2008, iPhone launched, 3G, Apple launches the App Store. A little bit later, Google Market is released in October. Again, kind of what is it? High level. It's the method by which marketers, I'm a marketer, ensure apps are kept top of mind, driving organic downloads. And paid. Oop, not clicking. There we go. When we think of ASO, there are two main things. We've already heard most of them, but just a quick refresh. You got your metadata optimization, so title, subtitle, short, long descriptions, hidden keywords, and your creative, so icons, screenshots, videos, and featured graphics. There have been changes to the stores. At its core, though, it really hasn't changed in 12 years. 2016, this is when ASA was launched, so Apple Search Ads. 2017, this is actually when Apple split out the App Store to the more familiar look that we have right now. So you've got your games category and your apps category. And this is when they started doing editorial content. So today tabs, editors, picks, things like that. 2021, this is when the change really happened. First it was Google, first it was Apple, then Google came along. So 2021, this is when Apple introduces in-app events, custom product pages, and finally testing. Google did have that. We were very excited. Thank you, Apple, for finally releasing it. 2022, Google's like, wait, Apple's making all these changes. We're going to make these changes too. So they launched promotional events and custom store listing pages. 2023, Google is making further enhancements. So now you have AI with your custom store listings. Soon we are going to have linking from Google Ad campaigns, something we don't have today. They have not really announced when, but it's coming. They've made additional updates to promotional content. My understanding is it's actually still in beta. Not everyone has access to it. Audible does. If you have an Android, you will see that in the Google Play Store. They've talked about deep linking that's coming, that is also in beta, and featured products. So this means it's time for change. So here we've been talking about the same things, ASO, for a very long time. But now we have all these new products. Welcome to ASO 2.0. I know it's not like an official name. We just have to come up with something. We can't keep talking about the same thing because the space has changed. So it's really time to go beyond metadata and screenshots. First up, ASO 1.0 does not go away, okay? So metadata creative updates, they are still important. We're not saying you shouldn't be doing them. A lot of companies don't actually do this. I hear this all the time. I talk to people, they're like, well, I don't really know. Should we have an ASO strategy? They're like, I'm launching the app. I think I'm just gonna put up my screenshots, do my metadata, and that's it. Launch and leave is very popular. Do not do that. You have to have an ASO strategy. They're still going to be the foundation of your downloads, your primary downloads, and that's going to be your primary KPI. But there is so much more that marketers can and should be doing. So second, stop thinking of the app and Google Play stores as isolated channels and afterthoughts. Again, I said this is a really important channel. A lot of brands do not recognize that. If you're an app, you have to think about it as part of your holistic strategy. So the stores are part of it, your multi-touch, paid and organic. I'm not going to go that deep into this. Actually, the next presenter, Dave Bell of GumCube, goes into this a lot more in depth. They are our agency that we use, so I'm really excited to see their presentation. And this is the foundation for your organic app strategy. Third, stop thinking of the app and Google Play stores solely as acquisition channels. So this is another really big shift. Everyone really thinks of them as just all they're good for is downloads. So millions of people visit these stores every day. Both of them, we know Apple's been very editorial focused. Google's starting to become more editorial focused. Those are things you have to keep in mind. Fourth, stop thinking there's one important area for ASO. That's also, again, part of that older strategy. These tools work both for organic and paid, and they work together. Again, not in isolation. So we kind of think about launch and leave. We think about ASO only for organic. They have to work together. Each brand, though, has to figure out their own strategy. There's no secret sauce. There's no, everyone's doing this and this is what you have to do. You have to find out what's the right mix for your brand. So ASO 2.0, the tools and strategies. Events, custom pages, and more. So first up, Apple in-app events and Google promotional events. These are really your own editorial for brands. I did a whole presentation on in-app events last year, so I'm not going to go super in-depth, but you can go find it on App's promotion site. But these, they live on your product page and they're in your search results. They allow for localization. They allow for deep linking into your app. So that is still in beta for Google Play, but it is coming. So some apps do allow for it. But as you can see, for example, here we have Sandman, Act 3. We have French in the top, English, and they both go to our product pages. Apple and Google, and this is what's also really important to know. So while these are your own strategy, these are the foundation for them to boost your content into earned media. So they take this and they use it. So anytime you see those apps tabs or today tabs, they link those in-app events. They also have different slots for Apple where in-app events get exposed. And Google is doing the same thing. So if you want to get earned media, you have to first have owned media. They drive a lot of awareness. And I will say this graph actually looks different if you looked last year. These products have matured. Last year when I did this presentation on in-app events, I talked about it being a strong acquisition strategy with some re-engagement. They have switched, and I've heard this from a lot of brands, and they really drive a lot more re-engagement. So this goes back to the don't just think of these channels as acquisition. You're going to re-engage users. If they're in the store, they're not thinking about your app. Apple's products right now are a bit more advanced. They will say this. Google, though, they are iterating rapidly. So just because they maybe don't have something now doesn't mean we're not going to see it. One of the things that Apple allows for is they allow you to deep link to the in-app event for all brands. So this is really important. This is something we've tested globally, and we found it's very successful. So if we're focusing on a specific title, in this one it's Unity in the Community, we found that running paid media, instead of going to the product page, going to the in-app event, does drive conversion. On some instances, we've seen between single and double digits. So other things that Apple does that, again, hopefully Google will start doing is it's a lot more intuitive. So the in-app events, you understand what you have to do. Open, get, update. When you see the ones on Google, you're not really sure, so people aren't necessarily clicking through as much. But again, I'd like to believe Google is going to make that update. The thing that Google does that's very nice for brands is they allow for offers and sales messaging. So that is something that Apple does not. It's just not how their store is set up because they are more editorial in nature, but Google does allow you to talk about sales. Custom product pages, CPPs, and Google store listings. So these have been really big changes. Both of these, so CPPs, we'll start with those, allow brands to personalize their ASA. So that's a very interesting strategy. And any paid or owned media where you can put in a custom URL. So for example, we were talking about before, Google ad campaigns today, they're very structured. You can't define a URL when they open that up. It's not clear if they're going to allow you to drive to CPPs, but you will be able to drive to CSLs. That is a great part of your strategy. So this really helps with any sort of personalization, especially for ASA. So an example here is you search for Audible, you get our BAU product page, but if you search for podcasts, you get our podcast custom product page. So we're really focusing on that search term and connecting the user. CSLs, very similar, a few differences, like I said, but those could be changing. And it'll be interesting to see once Google opens up their UI, you'll be able to drive to their custom store listing pages. So I think that's going to, again, open things up. And they also allow for different custom states. So they have a by country and a by user state. So the country one is very interesting. So again, a brand like Audible, we are in Australia. We have an Australian version of our app. We have Australian assets. However, Google, if you are in New Zealand, sets them to the United States. So they see the United States assets. We can actually use custom store listings, take our Australian assets, make a custom store listing page, and set that to New Zealand. And everyone in New Zealand is seeing the proper assets that link to what they're going to see in the app. These are a great way to optimize paid media and offer a more personalized experience. So we just talked about ASA, and we do that from other campaigns as well. So on the previous slide, you saw we're running a campaign for mysteries and thrillers. So instead of just sending them to our regular product page, our custom store listing, we're sending them to a dedicated mysteries and thrillers one. But my little warning here is don't just personalize that store experience. So if you're going to show people podcasts or mysteries and thrillers, make sure they see that when they get into your app. So you're going to drive all these great new, highly engaged downloads, but if they then cannot find what you just showed them, they're going to leave. So it's really important that you're connecting your out-of-app and your in-app experience. Moving the conversion funnel up. So Apple has been doing this for quite some time. You can see that they've had in-app purchases for a while. If you're on the product page, they're all the way at the bottom. In search, they float to the top. In this instance, you'll see that in search, it actually gives you the price. It does not tell you it's a trial. This is where I think Google is actually doing it right. This is something that's currently in beta, and you'll see they actually bring that up on the page and talk about free trials with your install. I'm almost out of time. I didn't think I was going to have 15 minutes, so I tried slowing it down. Quick predictions, or as I would like to call it, my wish list for the future. Apple, I would love to see more than 5 in-app events globally. More than one test to run at a time. So they did just decouple testing, but you can still only run one test. I would love to see personalized organic search ads, not just for ASA. Allow deep linking from CPPs regardless of how someone gets there. And then Google, CTAs on promotional events. So like I said, I think that's a gap right now where Apple has the advantage. And CSLs for Play Store search. Thank you.